All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We are talking about another big PlayStation 6 leak coming from a reliable source. And I think what makes this leak so interesting and why I think a lot of people are going to want to pay attention to it is because this leak is coming from up-to-date documentation. For those who have been following, we were covering previous PlayStation 6 leaks from the same source, but it was emphasized that everything we were hearing came from 2023 documents. So because of that, there was the caveat that anything we're listing and anything we're learning about could be subject to change. Now, the documentation that is being referred to here is up to date as of a couple of days ago. So because of that, I think it makes it much more relevant. And the main focus of this leak is the PlayStation 6 handheld specifically. And there's also something that is beginning to make the rounds. I'm seeing it reported on, and I'm seeing people run with it on places like Twitter, but it is incorrect information, not from Moore's Law is Dead, but people misunderstanding what is going on here, and I will talk about that later in the video. But we're going to start here with the new information regarding the PlayStation 6 handheld. Right off the bat, it is targeting a fall 2027 release, which means it's seemingly going to release right alongside the home console. The documentation says that Sony is apparently trying to target an affordable price point. Moore's Law is Dead makes it clear in his video that all over these documentations, it talks about cutting costs, it talks about keeping it affordable, and so it does seem pretty clear by this point that we're not going to see Sony come out with some absurdly priced hardware. Now, Moore's Law is Dead speculates in this leak what price point Sony is likely to be targeting, and the reason he's speculating this so confidently is because he's giving estimations on how much it's going to cost to produce this hardware because he has the leaked specifications, and also because there are better yields on the TSMC 3 nanometer node that will be in this handheld. And he's saying that based off of everything he's calculated, it's looking like it's going to be anywhere between $399 and $499. And it does seem like Sony may actually position this handheld to try to compete with the Nintendo Switch 2, by keeping it at around the same price point, but maybe offering more power in general. But that brings us to the specifications of the PlayStation 6 handheld. Now, again, these specs are up to date. The only unknown when it comes to the specifications, by the way, is the RAM. I'm going to let you know that right up front. But Moore's Law is Dead talked to multiple developers behind the scenes and asked their opinion. And every developer pretty much agreed that, look, if this PlayStation 6 handheld is actually going to run next-gen games, which, that's the big question here. If it's going to run PS6 games natively, if that's something Sony is targeting, they're going to need quite a bit of RAM. They're going to need like probably 24 or more gigabytes of RAM. So we do have to keep that in mind. That could end up changing the overall price point of this device. But the specifications we do know about that are featured in this leaked documentation is that it is being powered by the Canis APU, which is a TSMC 3 nanometer node. It's also a monolithic square die, by the way. It's 135 millimeters, and it's going to feature 4 Zen 6 CPU cores and 2 Zen 6 low power cores that will be dedicated to running the operating system and all non-gaming tasks, with 4 megabytes of L3 for the Zen 6C CCX and 16 compute units, specifically RDNA 5 compute units. The GPU is going to be clocked at around 1.20 gigahertz in handheld mode and around 1.65 gigahertz in docked mode. So apparently you're going to be able to dock this handheld. This is pretty significant because to me, this indicates that Sony is absolutely looking to try to go after the Switch 2 or compete with it in some sense here. But it's going to have a 192-bit LPDDR5X 8533 memory controller with support to up to 48 gigabytes of RAM. And when it comes to the features of the handheld, it will offer backwards compatibility with both PS5 and PS4 games, a micro SD slot, an M.2 slot, haptic feedback, and dual mics with a touch screen. So, yeah, man, it seems like Sony is going all out for this PlayStation 6 handheld, and I don't know that I feel as confident as Moore's Law is dead in thinking that Sony's going to target this thing to be around $400 or $500. Everything that's being listed here leads me to believe it's going to be a little bit more expensive than that. But I think it really comes down to whether or not we can actually anticipate this console playing PlayStation 6 games natively. It's hard to imagine that because, people are even questioning if it's going to be possible to play PS5 games natively. Like, how many compromises are going to need to be made to make this happen? There's a lot of questions that we still don't have the answers to, but the fact that this is leaked documentation, up to date documentation, Sony is going all in with some type of dedicated PlayStation handheld, and it is going to launch alongside the PlayStation 6 home console. It's also worth noting that Moore's Law is Dead talks about how this next gen PlayStation handheld is going to perform up against something like the Xbox ROG Ally X. And according to Moore's Law is Dead, he's saying that this thing is going to comfortably outperform the Xbox ROG Ally X. And really, the big thing here is the fact that Sony's going to be using RDNA 5 compute units. The RDNA 5 compute units, there's only going to be 16, which sounds like it's not a lot. But I mean, these compute units are significantly faster than the compute units that are in the PS5 right now, and even what we're seeing in RDNA 3 or RDNA 4. So, yeah, we are now going to move on to the information that I believe needs to be corrected, not from Moore's Law is Dead, because it's just people misunderstanding what he's saying and running with things. And, it's just one of these things where it's going to happen with these types of leaks. But basically, I came across an article here on PlayStation Lifestyle where it says PlayStation 6 reportedly has an Xbox Series S like variant, and fans are concerned. And I saw multiple people on Twitter claiming this as well. They simply did not listen to the video, or they misheard or misunderstood what Moore's Law is Dead was saying. In the leaked documentation that he has, there is no mention of a Series S like PlayStation 6 model. Moore's Law is Dead speculates at the end of the video, and he's speculated this multiple times, by the way, that Sony could very easily, if they wanted to, utilize the Canis APU, which is the handheld PlayStation 6 APU, to make a cheaper, more affordable PlayStation 6 that seems more appealing than what the, I guess, base PlayStation 6 will be, right? Because it's presumably, well, we do have the leaked specifications of that. It's going to be pretty powerful, right? But people are always wondering about the cost of these consoles. So Moore's Law is Dead speculates that Sony could easily do that if they wanted. However, it is not part of the leaked documentation. As of right now, there is nothing there that tells you Sony is making a S model PlayStation 6. And I am seeing people run with this as if it's already confirmed, when in reality, it's just purely speculative. It's not something that is listed in the documentation. It's not something we've had leaked anywhere else. It's just Moore's Law is Dead basically saying what he would do, or what he thinks would be a good idea for Sony to do. And yes, if Sony did do this, fans would understandably be concerned. And I'm going to tell you why. The big difference between Sony doing this PlayStation 6 handheld versus actually having an S model PlayStation 6 that's, cheaper, less powerful, is, as far as we understand, and this is the big thing that we need to get official confirmation on when this handheld is revealed, and we'll have to see if Moore's Law is Dead updates us. The big thing here is that we are under the impression right now that developers will not be mandated to make their game run natively on the PlayStation 6 handheld. Okay? To whereas if Sony put out an S model PlayStation 6, a less powerful base PlayStation 6 console, home console, developers would absolutely be mandated to support that. And that is the biggest difference here. And we need to understand that. The idea with this PlayStation 6 handheld, as far as I understand, is because cross-gen is going to be supported for such a long time, even when the PlayStation 6 comes out, Sony, I think, is very much hopeful but developers will be able to easily get their game up and running with just a little bit of tweaks here and there on the PlayStation 6 handheld. And the reason for this is because, according to what Moore's Law is Dead said in his latest video, the PlayStation 6 handheld will, when it's not docked, be about 75% of a PS5. So when it is docked, it's basically going to be the equivalent of a base PS5. So again, with that logic, if developers are going to continue to support cross-gen for many years to come, then, chances are Sony will not have to mandate anything. These developers will just be able to have their game run to some degree, even if it is a PlayStation 6 game, right? Or maybe you'll just have to run the PS5 version of that PS6 game if it's cross-gen on this handheld. The reason why this is so important is because what this ultimately means is that Sony is going to allow developers with the home PlayStation 6 console, if they just want to take full advantage of that, the feature set, the power, everything the home PlayStation 6 console is offering, they don't want to make a cross-gen game, they can do that. Their hands will not be tied. They will not be mandated where it's like, well, you can't do that because you got to make it run on this lower model. It seems like Sony is not going to make the same mistake that Microsoft did with the Series S, where, frankly, the mistake was Microsoft mandated it. They told developers, you have to make a Series S version to ship a game on the Xbox console, period. That's not what Sony's doing based off of everything that has been leaked out so far. And I just have to put so much emphasis on correcting this because, yeah, it's understandable why people are going to run with this, right? Because it's like, oh, you hear about a PlayStation 6 handheld, how it's going to be close to the same power as a base PS5, and people automatically think about parity. They think about the Series S. And when you have Moore's Law is Dead speculating at the end of his video that Sony could do this if they wanted to with the Canis APU, then yeah, some people are going to misunderstand that. They're going to hear what they want to hear, and they're going to start reporting on it as if this is what's listed in the leaked documentation. So unless there's something that Moore's Law is Dead isn't telling us, which I don't think there is, then yeah, this is just simply not true. There is no PS6 S in development right now, and it seems unlikely that there would be. It would be kind of insane, in my opinion, for Sony to see what happened with Microsoft this generation with the Series S and say, you know what, we should do that too. That would be insane. And I would genuinely have to question what is going on over there at Sony. But guys, that is the big PlayStation 6 handheld leak. It's a good one, right? Up-to-date information. There's still unknown factors here. We don't know how much RAM there's going to be. We don't know if Sony's truly targeting to get most PS6 games playable on this thing, or if it's just going to be something that is, what I'm trying to say here and what I'm going to say to wrap this up is, I wonder how hard Sony's going to push this in terms of like, if you don't want the PlayStation 6 home console, get this instead. Maybe instead of considering the Switch 2, consider the PlayStation 6 handheld. I just wonder how aggressive Sony's going to be with this. But super fascinating, and Sony's taking a very interesting approach to the next-gen hardware. Certainly one that I was not necessarily expecting. So guys, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or found it informative. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.